if she gets all the way over here, right there, she may easily just walk around here, and now you put it in and push it against that wall, you'll smash her there. That's a very easy way to kill a queen. Hello everybody, I'm David Burns, good to be with you today. Thanks for joining me for another great beekeeping video to help you guys keep healthier bees and make fewer mistakes. So glad you dropped on my channel today. Today I'm going to be talking about two types of beekeepers that both ways are bad. Both ways can be wrong. And I'm going to explain it, and when I get into it, you'll start to understand and you're going to have an aha moment. And if you've been beekeeping a long time, this is going to be helpful. Or if you're starting out this spring, it's going to be really helpful because you're going to be able to say, ooh, I've got to watch for that, because a lot of things happen that is results of the beekeeper and not the honeybees, not pesticides, it's not the mites, it's the beekeeper. So we're going to talk about how to help you really get to be a better beekeeper so that you don't kill your hive. Okay, that's what a lot of people are worried about. So let's jump right into it. And the first thing I want to talk about is the type of beekeeper. Number one is the perfectionist. Now, you would think being a perfectionist would be a great thing to be if you're going to be a beekeeper, because you would do everything perfectly and your bees would never be sick or they would never die. They would make tons of honey because you are perfect. You are a perfect beekeeper. But let me tell you why being a perfectionist can sometimes come back to bite you. Usually a perfectionist beekeeper is a real go-getter, and nothing wrong with that. But let me explain. They're dynamic, they are micromanagers, and a little bit of a control freak. You know what I mean? I mean, they are so into it that they can't stand the thought of ever doing anything wrong. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Sometimes our ego is tied into beekeeping. We don't want to be known as the people that lost a hive or let our bees die, or our hive became a mite bomb. That's a reference to letting mites get so out of control and infest your hive so badly that they're producing so many mites that it's getting other hives infested with mites. That's called a mite bomb. You don't want to be called that. And you go to your bee clubs, and sometimes you feel intimidated because everybody there knows what they're talking about, and you're kind of new, and maybe you don't know. And so you try to be overreactive about everything. You try to be a perfectionist. You want to do everything right because you don't want your bees to die on your watch, and that's a good thing. Nobody wants to be responsible for their bees dying. But let me explain it further. Being a perfectionist in beekeeping can actually cause us to be a little paranoid. And oftentimes that causes us to actually create problems in our bees that don't exist. You think, well, how do you do that? No, we can actually create problems by being so perfectionist about it that we're the ones causing the problems. Or even worse is the fact that if you're in this type of personality, a perfectionist in beekeeping, you can actually make a problem worse by trying to fix it. Because again, you might overthink it. You may overdo it. You may make a simple problem that the bees might have fixed on their own naturally. But if you're a perfectionist, you may want to get in there and just try to fix it yourself, not understanding science or bee biology totally, and you might make the problem worse. An example of that is what I started this video with. You might be so kind of like passionate about finding your queen every time you do an inspection that you're looking through every frame, because I find this to be really true in new beekeepers, 1 to 5 year beekeepers, that they really do want to see that queen every time. I have watched so many new beekeepers, it's almost like they don't have approval. They can't check it off that they did an inspection unless they find their queen. And I don't think that's a good idea. I really don't. You need to find that the queen is there by looking for eggs that are standing straight up in cells. If you see eggs in a cell, lots of them, you know your queen laid those eggs within the last 24 hours. Because after 24 hours, the eggs start to tilt over. And, day 3, they're laying as a larvae on the back of the cell, bottom of the cell. A lot of times people have to see the queen. And that way they know it's all okay. But look, just because you see a queen doesn't mean your queen is in great shape. You could have a drone laying queen. she's out of stored sperm. She can't fertilize eggs anymore. So just by seeing a queen doesn't mean she's good. You can see the queen, but she just may have a spotty brood pattern. She may not be good enough to keep. So by looking at the queen, you're not really learning much except she's there. What's more important is how is her performance of laying good, capped over, sealed, solid brood. That really tells you about your queen. So if you're going to all this trouble to find your queen because, maybe you have a propensity to be a perfectionist, then maybe you might kill her. How do you do that? Well, let me show you. Here are 10 frames. And believe it or not, these frames are one of the most deadliest weapons against the queen. And today I'm going to show you why beekeepers are killing their queens, especially new beekeepers that are a little bit new and unfamiliar with the dangers and how easy it is to kill a queen during an inspection. So let's just pretend we're outside. It's like 9 degrees outside today. I've made a lot of videos on how to do this in the field. You can watch some of my older videos, but today I want to re-emphasize it indoors. So here's a frame of drawn comb, and I'm going to take this little thing here and I'm going to push it in the comb, and that's going to symbolize where our queen is, okay? It's a wire nut for those of you that are wondering. So this is the wire nut, but that's going to be our red queen. And if you notice, when you're working your hives, you might see your queen walking, and let's say she's walking around and she's right there. So right there is where you want to see your queen, somewhere in the middle when you put a frame back in. So you could safely, like you might have one frame out when you're doing an inspection on the end back here. You may have all these pulled like this and make a space. Let me show you the space here. So you might have the space to safely put the frame back in without touching the other frame next to it. And so this is your queen. Watch her. Keep your eyes on the queen all the way down and make sure she's not anywhere near the wood, okay? So when you put that down, now you can pull, if you watch the queen, see where she's at, watch her, and you can safely pull this frame against the queen frame. That's how you protect your queen. How you run the risk of killing her is if she gets all the way over here, right there, she may easily just walk around here, and now you put it in and push it against that wall, you'll smash her there. So by manipulating frames too much, you can actually run the risk of killing your queen. That's why it's really important to gain the skills and the knowledge that you need about protecting your queen every time you do an inspection. Now, a lot of beekeepers don't know that. You're just going through your hive rapidly. Maybe you're a little intimidated by the bees. Maybe they're a bit more aggressive or defensive, and it's a hot day. You got sweat in your eyes, and you can't really see what's going on out there, but you need to find the queen, get it over with. And so you're just really going faster, and you're getting a little bit more clumsy. And all at once, unbeknownst to you, you can kill your queen. You don't even know you killed her. Out of 40 to 60,000 bees in a colony, there's only one queen, usually. You wouldn't think you could kill one out of that many bees. You would think, there's no way. What's the odds of that? Well, wouldn't you know it? Murphy's Law. What goes wrong can certainly go wrong and will go wrong. Yeah. So a lot of times beekeepers sometimes blame, where they bought where they bought the queen from. They're like, oh, I got a bad queen. I don't see her anymore. I don't like that company because the queen's gone. They don't realize that they accidentally killed her. So by following the technique that I just showed you, you'll be a lot more able to protect your queen. So every time you do an inspection, listen closely, take a note, make a note. Every time you do an inspection, your job is to protect the queen, okay? So you got to think, I got to protect her. And until you see her, you don't know where she is, so you can't smash bees. Now, I watch people work bees a lot. And I'll tell you this, most people, 9 out of 10 beekeepers that I watch are very clumsy in handling protecting bees. They really are. They don't realize by pushing 2 frames back together that they're killing a lot of bees because they don't realize they need to get them out of the way. The queen could easily be there. And until you find the queen, you don't know, but you might kill her. So that's why it's important to know where your queen is, and until you find her, don't kill any bees. You shouldn't ever kill any bees, but be extra careful until you find her. And once you find her, then I like to either put her in a queen cage in my pocket, or I'll set that frame with her on it outside the hive. Now I can manipulate the bees, and if I do get a little careless or reckless, and I kill a few worker bees, they're going to be replaced very quickly. I don't want to kill bees, don't get me wrong, but it's not as bad as when you kill the queen. When you kill the queen, it's bad. They have to raise another one. It takes 30 days for another one to get mated back. It's just so, yeah, you don't want to go down that road. So a perfectionist beekeeper can be good if you apply the right kind of techniques, the right kind of skills, and you're really a perfectionist. You're going to do it just right. But at the same time, a lot of perfectionists in beekeeping, they worry, they over worry, and that causes them to go back into the hive too much to look for things that aren't there, or it causes them to really overthink everything. And here's another thing that's really, really bad. And it's when perfectionists, overthinkers, worriers about their bees are so concerned that to satisfy all of this nervous energy, they dive deeply into social media for answers. And so rather than spend time learning biology, learning from certified master beekeepers, learning from entomologists, taking a class, rather than spend that time learning, then they just grab worry information. I call it worry stuff. They get stuff in their brains from worrying, and it may not always be right. And they just start grabbing, and that kind of makes them feel better. You know, when you're worried, if you do something, you feel better, right? So people that worry about their bees, they'll just start blasting social media with, oh my gosh, I got a problem with my bees, what should I do? And then they get 50 answers from people that may not have a lot of experience or know what they're talking about either. And then all at once you're off on a rabbit trail, causing more problems in your hive. This is so common. Oh my gosh, it is so common. Albahead David says, please subscribe to my channel. Now let me continue to teach you guys about the two types of beekeepers that are bad. Now let's swing the pendulum to the other side, the other type of beekeeper that can be bad for your bees too. And that is the very phlegmatic person. I don't know if you're familiar with the word phlegmatic. It's used in personality profiling and all that, but a phlegmatic person, it means somebody that's not very motivated. And I'm not going to say lazy, but it just means somebody that has a very calm and unmotivated approach to beekeeping. That's not bad in and of itself, right? You want bees, you get bees because you want to go outside and look at nature, and you want to just be calm, get a glass of iced tea and watch your bees go in and out. That's a very calm, phlegmatic approach. But if you handle your beekeeping inspections or keeping your bees healthy, you're handling that very phlegmatically. What I mean by that is you become very hands-off. Almost like, I don't want to bother them, I don't want to inspect them, I don't want to do an alcohol wash, I don't want to see how they're doing, I don't want to inspect my hive, I'm afraid I'm going to kill the queen, so it's better not to do an inspection. See, that's wrong. You can't take that approach either. That's the other end. On the other hand, the perfectionist is probably over-inspecting, trying to find the queen every time. But the phlegmatic beekeeper is so hands-off, they don't ever want to inspect in fear of killing the queen or messing up something. And so the hands-off beekeeping approach is just as bad on the other end of the pendulum. And this is what really scares me, okay? I get a lot of people that ask me, David, my bees died, and they ask, why do you think they died? They're not giving me any data. They're not giving me any information. They just said, you know, a few little things like, I started with a swarm, or I bought a package and now they've died in the winter. What do you think they died from? Well, you know, the first thing that comes to my mind is mites, because a lot of hands-off beekeepers usually don't do a mite test as often as they should. You should be doing an alcohol wash mite test every 30 days. And that will give you a trend of how your mites are developing. Now, you only do that in the season when bees are active. You don't test for mites in the wintertime, For those of you that are new, I know you might be asking, you only do that when bees are flying and busy. You don't do that in the wintertime, but you do an alcohol wash every 30 days, and that gives you an idea how your mites are doing. But the very hands-off approach to beekeeping can lead you down a bad path where you don't understand what your bees need, or that they're sick, or they have a disease, or that they need more room, they're about to swarm. Hands-off, you're always going to lose half your colonies to a swarm. That's right, if you have a hands-off approach, your bees are going to get so crowded, which is a good thing, but then that they get overcrowded, they will swarm with the old queen. She will leave with half of the colony, and you're stuck with only half the colony now, and they have to raise a new queen. That's going to take a month to get a laying queen again. So hands-off really puts you behind, if not totally destroy your bees. So in the wintertime, coming out of winter, if you lose your bees or something, you can't really give a diagnosis as to why your bees died unless you've kept good notes and you've been a good beekeeper and you know what you did or didn't do. Then you can go back and say, this is what I need to do better next year. Well, we talked about the perfectionist. We talked about the very phlegmatic hands-off beekeeper. What kind of beekeeper are we supposed to be? Well, we need a little bit of both, so we kind of need to be in the middle of the road. That's right. We need to have the perfectionist drive to make sure we're doing things right and make sure we're doing things in a timely fashion. But we also need to have the more phlegmatic hands-off approach in a lot of situations where we need to leave things well enough alone. We don't need to be looking for trouble when there's no trouble to be found, right? I mean, it's okay, but unless you're really experienced, going in there too often can really cause issues. Let me explain, because I know you want me to define that. Well, I don't mind going into my hives a lot. And I make a lot of videos for you guys. So I'm in my hives. I'm in each hive at least once a week, if not more often, because I'm making videos. So I feel like with 30 years of beekeeping experience, it's less likely, notice I said less likely, that I'm going to make a mistake. It's not proven that I never will make a mistake, but I might kill the queen. It happens to the best of us. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying it's going to be less likely for me to mess up my hives by going in there a lot. I'm careful how I handle frames. If you watch me on YouTube, I work in slow motion. I'm careful. I don't like to kill bees. I'm really always protecting my queen. But if you don't have that experience yet, then if you get in there too often and you're clumsy, banging frames around, or you wear big gloves and you're smashing bees with your big gloves and all, I understand it. I'm not criticizing or judging. I'm just saying, until you get the skill sets down better, you need to inspect less. How often should you inspect? I would suggest never inspecting more than every 2 weeks. That's about all anyone should do anyway, about every 2 weeks. And in the swarm season, you may want to look every week for swarm cells. But after that, I would say I would hold off and inspect twice a month. That gives you all the data you need, and that keeps you from getting a laying worker, because you can monitor the brood and how the queen's laying and all. But if you get in there more than 2 times a week, or 2 times a month, I think that can really endanger your bees unless you're a very skilled beekeeper. So somewhere in the middle between being a perfectionist and being totally hands-off, right? You still want to do your mite test every 30 days. So if you inspect your hive every 2 weeks, one of those inspections is when you're going to do a mite test, which would make it once a month. I want to encourage you guys to please take a class with me. I'm offering my ultimate class. It's really a good class, makes up all the 7 classes. These are different than my YouTube videos, by the way. They're organized. I go more in depth. You'll see many thousands of you beekeepers have taken my classes. I appreciate that. And here's the link right here to take my class. Get that under your belt before spring. You're going to be much more confident, less worried if you get some more knowledge about bees and bee biology under your belt. Now, if you're kind of excited about beekeeping and you're thinking about it, but you haven't really pulled the trigger yet on doing it, I've got a great video on how to start beekeeping. It was made several years ago, but how to start is still the same way. Here it is right over here. I'll see you guys over there.